Good morning. Good morning. How is everybody doing? You guys are welcome to use the chat feature. I'm going to go through this, and this is an interactive class. You guys, I love your questions and your comments. Many times you guys know stuff way more than I do. I've been here 30 years in this crazy real estate game. But the bottom line is that I still am open to learning. So it's good to see all your smiling faces today. I'm happy to be back with Tuesday Tune-Ups. Good morning, Isaac. And let's see, we got a couple more people in the waiting room. So
how's it going?
Here in listen mode, that's perfect, Linda. We don't want you getting in any car accidents. So there is Brianne. Good morning, Brianne.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm great, thank you.
Good.
So, all right. Well, we're going to, hopefully I won't leave anybody else in the waiting room. I'm going to try to keep an eye on that if people are hopping in. But I want to be respectful of everyone's time and get started because I'll tell you guys, one of my personal pet peeves for myself is when people are waiting 5-10 minutes to get started because other people are late. Well, what about all of us great people who are here within the first couple minutes? So let's be respectful of our time and let's dive in. So last week on our Tuesday tune-up, we had somebody who brought up the fact that she is an at-home mom. And of course, she's working in real estate as well. And she's got 3 children under 5. And she was stressing out. She's like, how do I manage all this? How do I keep it together? And I'm going to be really honest with you guys. When you are in that situation, you're not really keeping anything together with, and I say that with the most love and respect because I was in the same boat. My children, when I started in real estate, my son, Jake, who's right now walking my grandson, was a newborn, and I carried him around in a little baby carrier into the office, and it was always really stressful. And then I already had a 5-year-old at the time, and then right after that I got pregnant with our youngest son, John. So I had 3 kids under the age of 6. 2 of them were 17 months apart, and I was just getting started in my real estate career. So needless to say, I was overwhelmed, stressed out, feeling all the mom guilt. How many of you have had the mom or dad guilt? Because I see Alex hopping on here saying, I'm listening, just cleaning up a spill. That's the daily stuff, right? And I know that you guys probably hear this a million times, that this flies by, this too shall pass, and you will miss those crazy days. Now, if you don't have kids, it could be a situation where you just have a lot of stuff going on in your life and you feel overwhelmed. I know that I also have animals out here in the country. So on top of taking care of kids, I was, trying to take care of horses and goats and chickens and all that stuff. So life gets busy and life gets overwhelming, right? And so today we're going to talk a little bit about what it looks like to create some sort of, I don't know if you want to call it balance. I don't really like that word. I think balance is bullshit. Excuse my language. I don't think any of us really have what we call balance. But how many times have you woken up and you're just like, oh, here we go again, right? My whole day is starting over and it's going to be crazy. It's going to be insane. And I don't even know if I want to do it, right? You just want to bury your head in the covers and go back to bed. Well, what really is the importance of work-life balance? Again, no such thing as balance, in my opinion. What happens is life goes through cycles. And if you've ever listened to my goals versus priorities class, we talk about life being kind of like a mixing board. If you haven't listened to that class, I encourage you to go check out my YouTube. I have several versions of that I've recorded over the years. But my son, all of my kids are really in music, but 2 of my sons are DJs. And when you go out to my son Jake's house, he's got this huge board, right? With all these like levers and buttons and colors and all kinds of stuff. And I'm like, what is that thing, Jake? He goes, it's a mixing board, Mom. And I said, oh, okay, so what does that mean? He goes, well, how music works, and this is honestly how life works, is why I'm relating it, is you have all these instruments, right? So let's say you have all these instruments. You have your flutes and your trombones and your piano and your drums and your guitars and all this different stuff, right? And if all of those instruments were playing the same key at the same time, it would just be And how interesting would that music be? That wouldn't be great music, would it? So what happens though is they take all these little levers and they adjust it all to make beautiful music. And really, that's what life's about. There are times when family is your number one priority. Your whole life revolves around making sure that these kids eat and sleep and, don't get sick and don't get injured, or animals or whatever it is you have. And then that phase passes where they can now at least walk and feed themselves and tell you what's going on, right? I'm laughing because I'm thinking of a story. Brianne, I hope you don't mind. I share this. She was saying last week that she is an aunt. She's a great aunt, and she does not really want to hang out with the kids until they can like tell her what's wrong, right? And I can totally appreciate that. Like when they're just crying and you can't figure out what's wrong, she's like, just give them to me when they're a little older and they can tell me what's going on. And I love that story because when they're young, it's a challenge, you guys. I'm not going to lie. And so then you get kind of past that phase. And now maybe your kids are a little older and they can take care of themselves and they can do things. And maybe your relationship is struggling. So maybe you need to focus some time and energy on your relationship. Maybe you need to focus more time and energy on work right now. Maybe you got to sit down and put some time into your money. These are all things that is how life works. And it's never one thing over the other. It's never balanced. You never have like this perfect life that you have going on. And if you're watching other people's perfect lives, you know that comparison is the killer of joy. And what people post on social media is not the real world, right? We only post the highlights, the reels, the stuff that makes us look good. And that's okay. It is what it is. But the reality is many of us are watching, like there's this gal, and I'm digressing right now. I watch on TikTok, I can't remember her name right now, but she's beautiful, right? And she's like 8 months pregnant and looks like she's amazing. And she's got 2 toddlers. And she's talking about how she's making her kids wanted a grilled cheese. Okay, grilled cheese, cool. One of my favorite sandwiches. Except no, she had to take it even further and she baked the bread and made the cheese, like literally made her own cheese and made the butter that she put it in the pan. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's over the top. And I'm sitting there watching this whole reel. I'm like, did it literally take her like 4 hours to make a grilled cheese? Because that would have taken me like 2 days, right? Anyway, that's the kind of stuff that we're comparing ourselves to all the time, right? And that's just not the real world, people. So here's the deal. Despite our best intentions, many of us fall prey to common pitfalls that disrupt our work-life balance, right? This can include things like excessive multitasking, failure to set boundaries. We're going to talk about that in a moment because that's one of my favorite ones. And difficulty saying no. One thing that I have learned this year is really the value of saying no to more things than I'm saying yes to, if that makes sense. I'm learning to say no. I just don't have the time for that. Or, yeah, no, I think that that's a great idea, but I'm not in the position to do it right now. I don't have the time, the resources, whatever that is. Learning to say no. No doesn't mean you're never going to do it. It might just mean you're not going to do it right now, right? And excessive multitasking. There's this great book called Multitasking is a Myth. And I love it because here's the reality of multitasking. So let's say right now that I'm trying to teach this class to you. And oh, by the way, I'm trying to check my email over here and I'm trying to make notes on something and my dogs are over here and I'm trying to do all of these things. Number one, how long would you pay attention to me not being focused on what is most important to you? But also, am I doing any of those things well? Am I teaching this class well? Am I responding to an email the way that I should? Am I, taking care of the things that need to be taken care of? No. And so you have to really understand that multitasking is a myth. Now, men are better at staying focused than women. And yes, that's a totally sexist comment you could say, but men are definitely better at staying focused on one or two things. We as women are trying to make sure that we're taking care of all the things that are going on in our life. So we're trying to do a million things at once. And the more that you can learn to actually focus on doing one thing at a time, like I have learned about myself, very ADD, right? And with ADD, that means that I have learned that I can really truly only focus for about 30 minutes. And after 30 minutes, I literally cannot focus anymore. And I know that I have to get up. I got to go distract myself. Maybe I need to go get a snack. Maybe I need to go walk around for a couple minutes. Maybe I need to go, use the ladies' room, whatever that is. So I have learned to try to take and chunk things into 30-minute windows, if at all possible. Failing to set boundaries is another big one. One of the best things that I learned when I first got into real estate, I was at a buy referral only event with Joe Stump way back, and we're talking probably 95 or 96. And he talked about the importance of doing a client appointment, right? An upfront client appointment, which is the best thing you can do if you're not doing that already. And at that client appointment, I make sure that my clients know what my schedule is. For example, I work Monday through Fridays, 8:30 to 6. I work evenings and Saturdays by appointment. I take Sundays off with my family. It says that on my voicemail. And I put my phone on Do Not Disturb every night from 6 p.m. until 7 a.m. the next day. Now, with that said, am I 100% sticking to my schedule? No. If something urgent comes up, obviously I can deal with it. I can still check my messages on my phone if I need to. I can still change my schedule around if I need to. If I've got relocation clients coming in out of town, am I going to work a Sunday? Yes, I'm going to work a Sunday. Do I do it every Sunday? Honestly, rarely. And so when you tell people your schedule up front, they're respectful. Like this morning, my son needs to go to the Apple store today. And I was like, oh, what time's the Apple store open? Well, 10 a.m. Well, am I mad that they don't open at 8? Am I yelling at the door, banging on the front thing? No, you need to be. No, they've told me their schedule, just like any business does. And, it's interesting when I just brought up my son, Jake, his phone broke last Thursday, and he has not been able to get a replacement until today. And he was saying last night, he goes, Mom, it's been actually really nice. He goes, it's been really quiet. He goes, I went to a restaurant with a friend and I'm sitting there and everybody's staring at their phones. Nobody's talking or engaging. And I didn't have a phone. So I'm like, oh, well, this is no fun. So how much time are we committing to being distracted when what's most important is right in front of us? So I encourage you to create some sort of a schedule for yourself. And I will tell you that everybody is respectful of my schedule. The only people who are ever disrespectful, many times, sadly, are other real estate agents. They're like, you're supposed to work 24/7. I'm like, no, I don't have to work 24/7. And I saw somebody post in a group the other day, Lab Coats or one of those groups, and they were pissed because an agent texted them at midnight to arrange a showing. And everyone was like, oh, that's so rude of them. And I said, well, do you not have the do not disturb button on your phone? Like, just put the do not disturb button on your phone and then you don't have to worry about that, right? So learning to set the boundaries, and I get it, you guys, we want to be everything to everybody, but you can't do that. It's not possible. And at the end of the day, the people that you care about the most are suffering. So it's really important that you find a way to really create those boundaries. So how do we keep our real estate career from taking over our time? Well, again, if you've not watched Goals versus Priorities, please go watch that class. In that class, what we talk about is basically color coding all of these little areas of your life. And I have personally come up with 8 areas of life: happiness, family, love life, spirituality, friends, self, work, and money. So how do you create a schedule that you can live with? Well, first and foremost, you guys, you plug in the important stuff first, right? You go into your schedule and you plug in meditation, lunch with friends. You can put in your date night with your significant other. If you attend church, you can block out church. You can block out family dinner. Like since my niece has moved home, we've been having family dinner every night and I absolutely love it. I have my niece, my son, my grandson there. Whoever else is in the area joins us at family dinner. And you know what? Some of the best conversations and the best things happen, even if it's just you and your significant other. Make that time important. Make that time to sit down with your family, sit down with the people that you care about, and share a meal, break bread, right? When I went to Italy several years ago, I remember that the thing that I learned the most was from these little old guys were sitting on the steps outside their house. And they were sitting out there talking and drinking coffees and espressos and stuff like that. And I said, what do you see in the difference between America and Italy? And they said, well, from what we see, he goes, here we work to live. There you live to work. And that really hit me. I was like, oh my goodness, that's so true. We're so focused on work and making money and doing more that we truly forget what's most important. And when you get to the phase of life like where I am, my kids are all grown now and we have grandkids, you miss that craziness time. You do miss that a lot and you don't appreciate it when it's happening. And so take the time first and foremost to go in and block out the important stuff. Number one, if you choose to go to the gym every morning and you want to have some meditation time, put your phone on do not disturb. Block out the time and make sure that happens. If you want to have a lunch date with friends, which I encourage you to do, block it out. Make more time with those people and put that stuff in first. Then if a client calls, and they want to meet you on a Saturday night at 4, you can say, oh my gosh, I'm already booked during that time. Could we meet at 2? Could we meet at 10? Could we meet on Thursday? You'll be amazed at how people will adjust their schedule when it's important enough to them. So are you plugging in these different types of things in your schedule? Again, maybe you like to go to the gym in the afternoon from 4 to 5. Maybe you want to attend a dance class with your friends or your significant other or things like that. But plug those things in first. Again, learning to say no is not easy, you guys. Trust me, I completely get it. But at the end of the day, what's most important is yourself, taking care of yourself and your health, taking care of your significant other, and taking care of your family. Everything else you're going to want to set to the side or make it a number 2 priority in your life. So in looking at this schedule, you can see that I've plugged in things like buyer appointments, listing appointments, open houses, right? Money, time to review your finances. Sit down with your significant other and review your money situation. What time am I prospecting? Now you can see that I have some open areas here, right? So during these open areas, guess what? I have availability for different appointments, for client appointments, for doing more prospecting if I want to, for doing coaching calls, leadership calls, whatever that looks like. I don't know about you guys, but I live by my schedule. If it is not in my calendar, it's flat not going to happen. Okay. So everything goes in my calendar. If you were actually look at my phone, you will see all the things that are actually in my schedule. So this is a perfect example right here. You can see a blank one, and then you can see the one that is completed, right? So you look here, you can add all kinds of things, right? You can add prepping for Tuesday tune-ups because I do Tuesday tune-ups. Well, this show's at noon, but I actually do them at 10. So attending our local association meetings, right? Doing my coaching calls for my one-on-one clients, picking up the boys. This is an old schedule of mine, right? Date night with hubby, setting up a happy hour with friends could be a ton of fun, right? My husband is a stand-up comedian, so going to some of his comedy shows. I have times where I need to sit down and do client appointments, right? Review net sheets, present offers, get new listings. These are all different examples of what you can put in your schedule. This is actually when my boys were little. You can see I used to go to work out early before they got up, get breakfast ready for them. I liked to take them to school 2 days a week, and I used to pick them up 2 days a week. The other days my husband would. So block that time out in your schedule. And so here are some things that can help you with successful implementation. Number one, you guys, this is not going to change overnight. I realize that, you might be overwhelmed and stressed out, but take some time to implement this. Start by just plugging one thing into your calendar each week that's a priority to you. Maybe that's picking up your kids. Maybe that's a date night, right? And set realistic goals, right? Doing this again overnight, not going to happen, but little by little, it can happen. making sure that you prioritize flexibility. Some things you can be flexible about, some things are not. Like my kids, picking them up from school was a non-negotiable. So that became number one priority, right? And then review your calendar on a regular basis whenever you can. Review those times that you've put things in, and maybe you want to switch your date night to a Thursday instead of a Saturday. Maybe you decide, that one day a week you're going to go horseback riding with friends and you want that to be a priority. Those are things that you want to review on a regular basis. Okay. And again, the famous learning to say no, right? To me, when I have things blocked out in my calendar, it's easier for me to say no. Right? If I have an appointment with clients on Thursday at 11 and an agent calls and wants me to do something or needs me to take care of something, I'm like, oh, I'm already booked. But I have this time and this time available. I have learned to now offer 2 or 3 times. Or if somebody says, hey, we want to meet with you, great. Send me 2 or 3 times that work for you, and I'll let you know which one works for me. And that has become a key to being able to implement this type of a schedule. So what do you guys think? Any questions? Any comments? Nothing? You guys are all quiet today? Y'all got your schedules figured out?
So I
Well,
have a comment.
yeah, let's hear it.
So this is probably one of the hardest things I've ever done in my entire career was starting to say no. Like that was the hardest thing I had ever done. And I was at a point where at one point I had 20 listings active and 20 escrows and I was killing myself and I had to learn to say no. And when I implemented a schedule, and if it was an emergency, I would let it come through. But when I implemented a schedule, I was closing 20 listings a month, working like 35 hours a week. And I mean, I had it down and people just
Yeah.
respected it. I was shocked at how much they respected it. And every
Yeah.
once in a while, now I'll let myself get back to not doing that, but my life is a lot better when I do it.
Yes, thank you for that, because it's so important. And you guys, when you have it on your schedule and it's your calendar is full, it's easier to say no. Right? So if Brianne calls me and says, hey, I have an appointment on Thursday, can you meet with us? And I'm like, well, I've already got something booked. Can we do Thursday morning? She'll be like, okay, let me see if I can move stuff around, right? You'll be amazed how flexible people are when you give them those options, right? When you tell them, hey, no, I can't do it at that time. People are more than happy to accommodate. Now, if it was an emergency and she's like, oh my gosh, this just happened. Is there any way you can be there at 2:00 today? I would see if I could adjust my schedule if I'm able to, right? To work it around. But you'll be really amazed at how flexible and you guys, let's talk about clients, because that is the big thing that's holding you back. You're like, oh my gosh, my client has to see property today at 2. No, they don't have to see it at 2, right? They could see it at 4 or 5. Or when you say, oh, but they can only see it after hours because they work during the day. You'll be amazed how clients have free time when they want it bad enough. They will rearrange. They can go, oh, I can take personal time and get off at 2 today. Oh, wait, Monday we only have a half day. How about we do it then? You will be amazed at what people will adjust their schedule to when you are not saying yes all the time and you are not 24/7. You guys, you're not going to lose deals over this. And if you do, that deal was never going to happen anyway. Now, again, if it's something that is a more of urgent style, again, like if I have a client coming in, they're relocation clients, and they just, are only going to be here in town for 2 days, then guess what? I'm going to shift my schedule and move things around to accommodate them. But those are rare. That is not something that happens all of the time. The biggest reasons for you guys not figuring this out is because you're coming from a lack perspective. You're feeling desperate that oh my gosh, I have to do this or I'm going to lose a deal. Well, if you're building your relationship business correctly, right, then you're going to learn what you need to say up front and how to say that. And we'll go in coming weeks, we'll go through my buyer presentation on Tuesday Tune-Up, where I talk a little bit about that in the schedule. But it's so important to really make sure that you put in the important stuff first. And that is really, I think, the most important aspect of this. So thank you for that, Brianne. Any other questions or comments? Nothing, huh? All right, you guys. Well, Here's the thing, be sure to connect with me. Here's all my social channels, and you can follow me on YouTube. Please subscribe over there. We do upload these Tuesday tune-ups there. And my podcast is the bomb right now. We've had over 35,000 downloads, which I am super excited about. I think we're at 160 episodes almost. And we have some great guests coming up on my podcast. So you can go to any of your podcast things, subscribe, follow, all that kind of stuff. And if you know somebody or you were interested in being a guest on my podcast, please PM me and we'll get you on my calendar. So, all right. Anything else?
I have a question.
Yes, Stephanie, let's hear it.
So you said right now, like if you're doing your relationship building right from the beginning, then they're going to respect your schedule. So I feel like we're wrapping up, but do you have something that you can share of like, what's the relationship thing that you can do right off the bat, or what's the building blocks on that?
So when I do my upfront client appointment, one of the most important aspects, and I have my client discussion checklist and my buyer, I'm pretty sure my buyer presentation is on my YouTube channel. You can check it out. But what I say during that process is I say, hey, Stephanie, so just so you know, here's my schedule. I work Monday through Fridays from 8:30 to 6. I work evenings and Saturdays by appointment. I take Sundays off to be with my family. It's literally that simple. And
Okay.
people go, oh, that's awesome. Great. Thank you for letting us know. Here's where clients get frustrated. If I don't tell you my schedule, Stephanie, and then you text me at 8 o'clock at night and I'm mad or irritated, I'm like, hey, you know, it's after hours. I'll reach out to you tomorrow. Or you get frustrated or whatever that is. You might not say anything to the client, but you're like, oh, you know, they're not, you know, they're bugging me all the time. You did not set the stage. You didn't tell them that they close, that you're not available during that time, right?
Mhm.
If you tell them, they'll be like, oh, no problem. I'll get voicemails from clients say, hey, I realize it's after hours. Give me a call tomorrow when you head into the office. Awesome. Right? Like, again, if you need to go to the Apple store today and the Apple store doesn't open till 10 o'clock, are you pissed at them? Are you like banging at the door? Are you yelling at them disrespectfully because they're not open at 9 o'clock? No, they told you their hours. Their hours are posted. Their hours are public. This is when I'm available.
Got it.
So if you tell people that, and you don't have to say it in a mean way, I'm not saying that in a mean way. I'm like, hey, Stephanie, I'm so excited to work with you. Let me just let you know what my schedule is. And this is when I'm available now. And I will even sometimes say, if it's after hours, I will check my messages. And if it's really important, I'll reach out to you. If not, it'll be the next day. Right?
Yeah.
Most people really respect the fact that I take Sundays off to be with my family. Rarely do I have somebody who's not comfortable with that.
Yeah.
Now, if I'm trying to schedule showings and the house is only available on a Sunday, I may reach out and say, hey, by the way, you know, I normally take Sundays off, but this is only available to be seen on Sunday. So I'm going to shuffle my schedule so I can make it work for you. But now it sounds like I'm doing something extra for them, not just doing what I already do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you're doing them a favor in that way.
Yeah, I'm doing them a favor. And so that's the important stuff to think about when you tell, here's how trust works. And I say this all the time. I've probably said it 1,000 times in my trainings. There's a fine line of trust. And how that line of trust works is if I explain something to you up front and then that happens, you go, oh yeah, Marguerite warned me about that. And you trust me. If I don't tell you something up front and it happens, what goes through your mind? You start to think, well, what else didn't she tell me? What else am I going to get surprised? What else is going to happen that I'm not prepared for? And now they don't trust me. They're constantly questioning everything. Have you had clients like that? They're questioning everything you do. Well, that's because you didn't explain to them up front how things work and what that looks like. Like, I know the Apple store doesn't open till 10, so I'm not pissed. I'm just going to rearrange my schedule to get there after 10.
Yeah.
And I'm not taking it personal. I'm not offended.
Mhm.
I'm not mad at them because they publish their schedule. We as agents, it's our fault. We say, oh, call me anytime, 24/7. And then we're pissed when they call you at 9 o'clock at night on a Friday. So we're setting that stage. That's really up to us to set that stage. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that was very helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions or comments before we wrap up today? All right. Well, you guys, thank you so much for joining us. If you have ideas for topics of things that you want to hear about on our Tuesday tune-ups, please let me know. We're also looking at getting some guests on here. So if you know anybody that would love to teach a class, or if you would like to teach a class, I'll tell you what, I learn the most by teaching. If you want to teach a class or talk on a topic, please reach out to me and we'll get you highlighted on a Tuesday tune-up. All right, you guys go out and make it an amazing day. Bye-bye, everybody.